The surface of our planet is covered with water, about 70%. The rest is firm ground, continents and islands. And, also, several percent of the territory of our Earth is occupied by swamps that are such areas of firm ground, where about 10% of soil contains 90% of water. Belarusan legends say that God created earth and scattered seeds, out of which various plants grew on land. The devil watched him carefully and wanted to compete with God in the matter of creating new life. In order to get seeds to be sown, the devil decided to dive to the bottom of the ocean. Suddenly, the seeds began to sprout, and the devil had to spit them out. There where the seeds fell on land, swamps formed. People have always considered swamps to be habitats of various evil spirits, antagonists of the divine principle in the process of the creation. A swamp is a mix of soil and water, the two primary elements, out of which, as ancient philosophers believed, the cosmos was created. Scientists claim that swamps appear thanks to the two basic methods: when water stagnates in a meadow or a forest, or when a pond gets overgrown. Wetlands are extremely important for the ecology of our planet. It is not for nothing that they are called the lungs of the planet. Swamps emit much more oxygen than forests. Also, swamps prevent the development of the greenhouse effect by retaining more than 20% of all carbon dioxide absorbed by ecosystems around the world. There are several thousand swamps of various types on the territory of Belarus. In the north of the country, there are one of the largest swamps, the Jelnia Swamp, which area exceeds 250 square kilometers, and the Moch Swamp, its area is about 50 square kilometers. The distance from these Belarusan swamps to their Florida relative, the Everglades tropical marsh, is about 5,500 miles. It is a unique array of raised bogs, a piece of forest tundra unsuspected on the territory of Belarus. The Jelnia and Moch swamps are raised bogs. They formed when atmospheric precipitation stagnated in the lowlands. Raised bogs form where there are impervious strata in the soil, such as clay, and groundwater is located deep underground. Sphagnum or bog mosses, characteristic of these swamps, grow faster in the middle part of the swamp, rather than at the edges. Every year, a new, upper, part of sphagnum grows, and the lower one dies. It turns into peat, the thickness of which is bigger in the center of the swamp, rather than at its edges. That is why the central part of the Jelnia Swamp is convex and rises 5 to 7 meters above its edges. Sphagnum also destroys microbes, so swamp water is the cleanest water from open sources. You can safely drink it. In addition to mosses, many rare plants grow on the swamp, for example, the insectivorous sundew. At the edges of its leaves, there is sticky mucilage, with the help of which it catches various small insects. At the end of spring, the swamp is covered with white fluff. The fruits, these are not flowers, of the hare's tail cotton grass. And in September, a carpet of red berries spreads out in these places. The Jelnia Swamp is the most cranberry-rich place in Belarus. At the same time, thousands of cranes stop here to rest and feed, while flying to warmer regions for wintering. Let's talk about peat a little bit, a special loose soil that forms in swamps. Due to the excess moisture and lack of oxygen, the remains of eulogenous plants do not completely decompose, as they do in the soil, but accumulate and form a layer of peat, about 1 meter per 1,000 years. For a long time, people in northern and central Europe extracted peat and used it as fuel. Various items are well preserved in a layer of peat. Scientists, paleobiologists and archaeologists have discovered many scientifically valuable artifacts in peat bogs. In 1890, in the Middle Urals, in a peat bog, the world's oldest wooden sculpture, dated around 9,600 BC, was found, the Shigir idol. When peat burns, thick smoke is produced. It is used to dry sprouted barley and heat a mix of water and malt during the whiskey-making process. The use of peat adds a characteristic smoky flavor to this drink. It is thanks to its unique bouquet, with notes of iodine, that the famous peat whiskey, Lafroig, was brought under the guise of medicines to the USA during the Prohibition era and sold in pharmacies. Well, it is time to return to the topic of today's story. On the territory of the Jelnia Swamp, there is an ecological trail called Ozzy Air Rawaki, it is almost a mile long. The wooden decking, 1.5 meters wide, is made of layers of oak and European aspen, so that the trail can last longer under the conditions of the constant humidity. Still, the most vivid impressions of the swamp can only be obtained by walking through a wild fen, without any decking. This can only be done with an experienced guide. It is necessary to arm yourself with a strong, comfortable staff, with which you should test the road before each step. You have to walk through the swamp carefully. One wrong step and you can fall through. The swamp is the dizzying marsh Labrador tea, a variety of grass colors, a yielding cushion of moss underfoot, and a lake in the middle of a morass that will seem a real paradise.